What's up, guys, and welcome back to Jobsite Conditions right here on Deco-Crete TV. My name's Jeff, and on today's episode, we're going to be showing you guys how to easily change the color of a concrete slab. Now, this might be something you need to do to fix a problem or just to create a whole new look on an old slab. No matter what the reason, though, there is just no need to live with ugly concrete. Now, this is going to be a step-by-step video with all the tools and equipment that you're going to need, so stay tuned and you're going to learn all about it. Get the buddy in the frame. So today's project is going to rate as a 3 on our DIY meter, and the product we're going to be using is Revival from Deco-Crete. Now, Revival is an opaque color coating that'll completely cover up discolorations, stains, or any other kind of blemishes that you have on the slab. I mean, honestly, after 2 coats of this stuff, your concrete is going to look brand new again. Now, it's available in 20 different colors that matches Deco-Crete's most popular color hardener and intro colors, as well as just a natural concrete color. Now, we all know that things just don't always go as planned on concrete job sites, and sometimes repairs are just going to need to be made, and man, Revival is just such an easy way of correcting color issues. And it's also great for those old slabs that just need some restoration work. Now, Revival will work on interior or exterior, broomed, stamped, or swirled concrete, as well as concrete overlays. So just remember, you don't need to replace it. All you got to do is revive it. Now, Revival does have some limitations, so here are a few rules to follow. Now, first of all, Revival needs to be applied to fully cured concrete, so never apply it to a slab that's less than 30 days old. So, number 2, always make sure that there is no sealer on the slab. I mean, Revival is not an acrylic sealer and it won't bond to one either. So if the slab is sealed, you're gonna have to remove that sealer first. Now, this could be done with a chemical stripper, but honestly, sandblasting is a lot quicker and more effective. Now, you also need to make sure that you're very thorough with your prep work. I mean, if the slab is unsealed, all you really need to do is power wash it really good, but good washing technique is really important, so just please check out this video right here for a full tutorial on washing. Now, lastly, stamped concrete is going to need to be treated a little bit different than broom or swirl concrete. I mean, the Revival is going to go on the same way, but there's going to be a few extra steps, so just make sure you stay tuned to the end of this video for tips on reviving stamped concrete. Now, the tools for Revival are pretty minimal, so we'll just cover those once we get out to the job site. Now, for today's project, we're going to be meeting up with Kurt Mueller from True North Concrete Creations to repair a 4,000 square foot broom concrete job. And we're just going to be using this natural concrete color just to make it look like it was when it was originally poured. And the best part about Revival on broomed or swirled concrete is we don't even have to apply any sealer on it afterwards, so we're really only going to just take one product with us. Now, you guys don't have to worry about remembering all this right now because the tools and everything else you're going to need are all linked right down in the description. So with all that out of the way, I think it's time to head to the job site and get started. All right, guys, now we're out here at the job site. We can take a look around and see what we're dealing with. And so, you know, this job, it was a driveway, as well as there's a patio out back, a few sidewalks connecting some things, a little sidewalk onto the front porch here. Some of it was, poured last fall, some of it this spring, and, just a few different loads of concrete, different concrete plants. And so we ended up with some color differences from load to load, which can happen at times. But as you can see, the other thing that we have going on here is, because it was done when the weather was colder, had to get covered up with blankets to keep it from freezing. And man, what a common thing that you see in cold weather environments is people pour concrete, they cover it up because they have to cover it up, but then you get these, really bad discolored spots just from, the way that concrete cures under the blankets. This happens a lot, and there's no great fix for this as far as removing those marks. All we can do is cover it up. So this is a great thing for Revival. You can see that we have a lot here. This is a big job. It's a little over 4,000 square feet. So we brought a lot of kits with us, and we're gonna do 2 coats on this thing. And when we're all said and done, this homeowner will be back to a nice uniform look over the entire job here. When this stuff goes on and once it dries, it will stick to brick or siding or anything like that. So you just gotta be careful, make sure you protect everything. But, even though this is a large job, the fact that we've got enough guys here, we'll be able to work in 2-person groups, and we'll actually be able to get this thing knocked out pretty quick. So just to run over a couple tools we're going to need for this job, and this is the great thing about Revival is we don't need very much. The first thing that we're going to need is, I always like to have a box of gloves. I mean, this stuff isn't necessarily that harmful to your skin, but if you get it on your hands, it is really hard to get off. So I like to wear gloves with this. Always make sure you keep some rags with you. I like to have a nice box of these. You never know when you're gonna have to clean some of this stuff up, or in today's case, you know, everywhere around our slab, there's topsoil down, there's grass seed there, and anybody that steps off the slab for a second is gonna get dirt on their feet. So rags are gonna come in really, really handy just to make sure we can keep our feet clean. Now, all we're gonna need to mix this is just a normal cordless drill will work just fine. I like these red helical mixers, but spiral mixers will work fine as well. Always good to have a paint stick just in case. And that's pretty much it. A 5-gallon bucket to mix this stuff. Everything else, all we need is our kit of Revival and we're ready to go. 2 different tools that we're gonna use to apply this stuff. The first one is gonna be this green car wash brush. If you guys have ever done, you know, texture enhancer or some sort of liquid antiquing on stamped concrete, it's the same brush. It's gonna fit down in our bucket. These bristles are just right for pulling that material out and applying it. Now, after it sits there for a second person is gonna have to go through and re-scrub the area. And we could use another one of these green brushes if we want, but I just like to use something more like a broom like this because it's just a lot bigger. And this thing is never going to go in the material, so I don't have to worry about this fitting down into something. In fact, you know, if we had a 36-inch, that would be fine too. The important thing is that it needs to be this really fine exploded bristle brush, just like these bristles are on this green brush. And so this one's gonna go in the material, it's gonna apply it. This one is just gonna re-scrub. It's never gonna get completely saturated from putting it in the bucket. So mixing this Revival is really, really easy. We just have 2 components in our kit. We got a part A and a part B. You can see that the part A is the big bottle there that has all the color in it. Part B is just the hardener, and that's not gonna have any color to it at all, and that's okay, it's not supposed to. So just open your lid. We're gonna pull off our seal, and it doesn't really look like the right color on top, and that's okay too because we're mixing this whole kit and we're gonna dump it all in. It's gonna all get mixed up together. So we're gonna start by dumping our A into a nice clean 5-gallon bucket, and then we're gonna take our hose and we're just gonna spray right down into that jar, and just be a little bit careful. You know, you don't wanna splash this, you know, everywhere and get it all over you, but you know, as we're spraying that down in our jar, we're sort of rinsing down the sides, and we're gonna end up adding 3 full jars of water. But this first jar, maybe 2, we're gonna rinse down the sides, put the cap back on, and now we can give that a shake. And it's really important for our color to be right and consistent that we get every last little bit that's out of that jar. And again, we had to fill it up 3 times with water anyways. So after our shake, we'll just go ahead and dump it in. And then you can take a look inside your jar, and if everything looks clean, then you can just go ahead and fill it up, and you don't need to shake it. If it seemed like you need to do it again, then go ahead and give it another shake. No matter what though, the important thing is that we add 3 full jars, those part A size jars, 3 full jars of water, and then we'll get on to our B. Once we got our jars of water in there, we're just gonna open up our B, and we're gonna dump that right down in the bucket as well. Now the part B is a little bit thicker, and it's gonna take a little bit to get it all out of that jar, and it's not gonna wanna mix with water quite as nice as the A was, so it's really important just to really shake that jar out. And then just as added insurance, we can go ahead and fill that jar up with water as well and give it a shake before we start mixing. And it's gonna look a little bit white in there as you do that, and again, it's just, it's not quite mixing up with that B, but it is gonna help get it all out of there. So each of these kits of Revival is gonna get us about 200 square feet. Now that is gonna be for both coats. So, when you first mix that first kit up, it's gonna go farther than that but we're gonna have to do another one. Now for today's job, you can see all these kits of Revival, all this square footage of this concrete we're covering. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and make 2 per bucket right off the bat because we know we're gonna use this. Now, we do have a decent amount of time with this stuff. This isn't like epoxy or something that we only have a half hour to work with. Once this is mixed up, we can use it for a good 8 to even 10 hours. And so, we're not really that worried about mixing too much up right away in this case. So once you got everything in your bucket, all your part A, all your part B, all your water, now we're just gonna take our drill mixer and we're gonna stick it all the way down in there, and we're gonna mix this for approximately 1 minute. So for applying this stuff, again, all we're gonna do is we're gonna take our green brush and we're just gonna dip it right down into that bucket. And even though we mixed all this stuff up beforehand and it stays mixed pretty good, it's still not a bad idea that the person with this green brush, maybe every 5 to 10 minutes, just take that brush all the way down into that material and just give it a mix just to make sure that everything is still thoroughly mixed up. When you do that though, it's gonna saturate your brush, so just give it a little shake out of your bucket, because what we don't wanna do is slop a big puddle of this stuff out there. We're just trying to put this on pretty thin actually. One thing that I do worry about a little bit as I'm applying is to try to control the drips. If we drip right next to our bucket and we're gonna get more Revival on there and flood it out really, really soon, it's honestly not a big deal. But I have noticed that if you leave drips and they completely dry up before you get back to them to apply your Revival, you do end up seeing that in the end. So just keep your bucket close to where you're working. That way, if you do make drips, it's gonna land right by your bucket and you're gonna flood it out. So all we're gonna do is set it right on the concrete and we're gonna start brushing it around kind of in circular motions. Sometimes maybe if this is broom concrete, so it works kind of to go with the broom marks when you have to. And once we put this stuff out, it's gonna look a little bit streaky. It's not gonna look very consistent right away as we're putting it out with this green brush. And then as it starts to sit there and it's starting to dry itself up, we have our second brush and our second person coming back through and rubbing it out with the brush that's drier, or what I would call kind of the finishing brush. And you know, after that, it's gonna start to look a lot more consistent with the color. We're gonna start taking away our brush strokes. And all we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep brushing it until it's pretty much dry, till we don't really see any more color change. It's one of the worst things we could do is just not hit it with this second brush. It's just not gonna look right in the end. Now, if there was only two of us, it's really important just to stay within our saw cuts. We can only do so much at a time. The guy applying it can't get too far ahead of the guy buffing it, or you know, he's gonna start to get behind on it. Right now, we're starting in the shade, but as this day goes on, it's gonna be full sun, it's gonna get pretty warm today, and it's gonna be a little bit harder to keep up. So you guys just have to work together so that you don't get, you know, too far ahead of yourself. On this job, and you'll see this is pretty common, we have these fairly wide tool joints in this job. And you know, it's important to make sure you get this stuff down in there, but also that the guy rebrushing gets down in there, because if we didn't get down in those tool marks, we would just see the original color of the concrete and it wouldn't quite look as good. And then as we go along here, we just want to try to keep a wet edge. You know, we don't want this stuff to dry up on us and leave a cold joint. So we're just going to kind of keep working our edge back across, and that's why we're using our saw cuts as stop-start marks, so it'll just going to make that easier for us. So this is definitely a two-coat system, and you can see as we're finishing up this first coat here, you know, it is looking pretty good already, but this is always important for two coats for longevity and just to completely 100% make sure we get the color right. So once your first coat is all applied, we just need to wait until it is completely dry and tack-free. You know, I'm standing up here on this thing and it is not tacky anymore at all, so we're good to go to put our second coat on. And you know, you can see that the first coat made a really big difference here, but we can still see, you know, some of what the problems were, so we need to put another coat on just to make sure that everything's covered up. You know, even if it looks good after your first coat, I would still recommend always doing a second coat no matter what. That way you know you got it, and this is also gonna act kind of like a sealer, and so that's just gonna give us an extra layer of protection. So if you have any material left from the first coat, you know, that's completely fine. We can use that again. I do like to set that stuff in the shade if you can between first and second coat, if you do have to wait at all. That way it doesn't get skinned over on the top or anything like that. But no matter what, if you're gonna reuse material, you know, from the first to second coat, just make sure you remix that, you know, really thoroughly, because it could settle a little bit in the meantime. And then after your second coat's done, you know, that material, whatever you have left after that, is only going to be good for, you know, about another, you know, 8 hours or so. So in most cases, you're just going to have to dispose of whatever you have left. So once it's all ready to go, we're going to apply this second coat just like we did the first one. You will notice that the material is going to go a little bit farther. It's not going to, you know, take as much of it because we already got that first coat down. But we're just going to start and we're going to do the exact same thing. And then once we're all done, this stuff, you know, it needs to dry out for a good 24 hours before we really start using it. I'd even recommend, you know, 48 hours before you start driving on this stuff. But next coat's gonna be just like the first one, and then this job is gonna be good to go. So on broom concrete like this, again, the great thing is 2 coats Revival. That is going to be our color. It's gonna cover up our problems, but it's also gonna be our sealer. And the best thing we can do is just leave this alone after we're all done. Doesn't need any sealer. This is the sealer.
Now, when it comes to stamped concrete, things will be a little bit different because the Revival is going to, you know, change the slab to the right color for you, but it's just not going to look right. There's a couple more steps to go. We're going to have to antique this to create a second color there, and then we're going to have to do one final coat just to make the antiquing color look right. Now, when it comes to timing on this antiquing, we just want to put this on as soon as the Revival is tack-free, which is usually between 2 to 4 hours after that last coat. When it comes to the antiquing itself, just a normal and texture enhancer will work just fine. Just mix it like normal. When it comes to applying it though, it is going to act a little bit different than on normal fresh poured concrete. You know, you don't have the concrete pores that are that's kind of drawing the water down in, and so you do have to be careful to not put too much of this on. You know, there's no place for it to go, so you just got to be careful and just use the minimal amount to make it look the way you want to. You know, as you're putting this stuff down, if it all looks good, then by all means just let it go and do its thing. If it does look a little bit streaky or funny, it works really good just to have a little leaf blower here, and then we can just kind of blow it and just move it around and, you know, get it to look the way we want. And it's best just to kind of do this as we put the antiquing on. It's just going to take an hour or two for this stuff to dry, and you know, we don't have to wait any certain amount of time. It just needs to be completely 100% dry, and as soon as it is, we can go ahead and put on our final coat. Now, what I wouldn't do is use any kind of concrete sealer, like anything acrylic or anything like that. We're just going to use the Clear Revival, and that's going to give us the best bond possible to the coats underneath of it. And so that is just a kit, just a Clear Revival, and just follow the directions right on the kit as far as mixing, but it is the exact same mixing as the colored Revival. And then when it comes to applying it, there are two different options here. The first one would be just to apply it just like you did the rest of the Revival, just with that same brush and the broom. You know, as it goes down, when it first hits the surface, it's going to look a little bit white, and then we're just going to take that same broom and we're just going to buff it out basically until it becomes clear. Now, another option would be to put this stuff in a plastic pump-up sprayer and spray it down, and we're still going to use that same broom and we're going to continue to brush it around until it's completely cleared out, but the sprayer is just another option instead of using the green brush to apply it. So after that's all said and done, and all we need to do is just one coat here, and we just need to let this dry up and everything is good to go.
Well guys, that's pretty much it for this week's show. Special thanks to Kurt and the rest of the crew from True North Concrete for letting us hang out on their job site this week. And thanks to you guys for taking the time to watch these videos. Man, we just really appreciate all the support that you guys show to the channel. Please leave us a comment if we missed anything, or if you have any questions about correcting color on any kind of concrete. Now, for more information on live, in-depth trainings for decorative concrete, please go to deco-cretesupply.com and click on the training tab. Now, if you guys found this video helpful, please let us know by hitting those two little like and subscribe buttons down there. And if you are already subscribed, just don't forget about that little bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and it really does help our channel out. So, from all of us here at Deco-Crete TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.